The Forgotten Map of America. Part 1. The Hook. Most Americans grow up believing they know their country's history. The Revolution, the Civil War, the frontier, the rise of industry. But what if I told you there was a story buried so deep, so shockingly real, that it never made it into textbooks? A story about a lost expedition, a hidden map, and a mysterious message that predicted events in America 200 years before they happened. A story that was almost erased forever. This is that story. Chapter 1. The Chest in the Lighthouse. The storm hit Cape Falston harder than any the coast had seen in decades. The old lighthouse stood like a trembling skeleton of stone, battered by waves that roared as if the Atlantic itself were trying to swallow it whole. Inside, 29-year-old Marine archivist Elias Mercer pressed the door shut with all his strength. He had come only to survey structural damage reported the week before, never expecting the storm to explode early. Lightning split the sky. Thunder shook the ground, and then he heard it, a heavy thud from downstairs. At first, Elias thought it was driftwood or some loose equipment, but then came a second sound, a hollow, metallic scrape, like something ancient being dragged across stone. He grabbed his flashlight and headed down the tight spiral staircase. The basement smelled of salt, rust, and a history that had been sealed away for a century. And there, half buried under the collapsed corner of a wall, he saw it. A massive, iron-bound chest, its surface carved with symbols he couldn't identify. Not colonial, not indigenous, not anything he had ever seen in years of studying North American maritime artifacts. The chest had been hidden inside the wall itself, as if someone wanted it concealed permanently. Elias knelt, brushed away the dust, and found engraved in the metal a single line in archaic English. "For the keeper of the New World's truth." His heart raced. He reached for the lock, and, to his shock, it snapped open, as if it had been waiting centuries for someone to touch it again. Inside the chest lay a large rolled parchment sealed with dark red wax, a leather-bound journal nearly decomposed by time, and an object wrapped in oilcloth, small but oddly heavy. Elias lifted the parchment first. The wax was embossed with an eagle, not the American eagle, but an older, stranger form, wings spread wide in a style reminiscent of civilizations far older than the continent's recorded history. He broke the seal, unrolled the parchment, and froze. Because it wasn't just a map. It was a map of North America dated 1491, 1 year before Columbus, yet featuring coastlines, river systems, and mountain ranges that weren't accurately charted until the mid-1800s. Impossible. Utterly impossible. But what terrified Elias even more was the text scrawled at the bottom in faded brown ink. "The truth must outlive the nation that hides it." The lighthouse trembled again as thunder cracked overhead, and then something fell from the journal's back cover, a small folded note. On it, in perfect English, was a message clearly written centuries later than the map. "If you are reading this, America is running out of time." Elias felt the room spin. What was this? A hoax? A forgotten piece of history? A warning? He didn't know, but he knew one thing. He needed answers, and the only person who might help him was the crypto-historian who had spent her entire life studying unexplained American artifacts, Dr. Naomi Caldwell at the Smithsonian Archives. He stuffed the map, the journal, and the mysterious wrapped object into his waterproof case and ran into the storm. He had no idea that the moment he left the lighthouse, 3 men in black coats stepped out of a parked SUV on the cliffside. Men who had been watching him, men who knew what he had discovered, men who would kill to keep it secret. Chapter 2. The Woman Who Knew Too Much. Dr. Naomi Caldwell had been awake for 19 hours straight when Elias barged into her cluttered office at the Smithsonian Archives in Washington, D.C. Her desk was stacked with unearthed artifacts, half-translated manuscripts, and coffee cups that probably had achieved sentience by now. Naomi was brilliant, a historian with an instinct for lies hidden in America's past and an attitude that frightened most museum administrators. She looked up from her laptop just long enough to glare. "Elias Mercer, either you brought me coffee or you brought me something you weren't supposed to touch." He didn't answer. He simply placed the ancient map on her desk. Naomi's sarcastic expression vanished instantly. She put on her gloves, leaned in, and the silence that followed was long and unnerving. "This is," she whispered, "not possible." "So it's real?" Elias asked. "Real?" Naomi said. "This changes everything. Look at the coastline detailing, the Appalachian curvature, the early projection of the Mississippi. Even the Rockies are marked, and Europeans didn't know they existed for another 3 centuries. She grabbed a magnifying lens. "And this ink predates European contact entirely." Elias exhaled shakily. "So, who made it?" Naomi didn't answer immediately. She was focused on a tiny symbol near the map's northeastern corner, an odd, triangular mark with 3 intersecting lines. Her voice softened. "I've seen this symbol before." "Where?" She hesitated. "In my father's—" "On the Caldwell tablet. The artifact my father died trying to authenticate." Elias went still. Naomi's father, James Caldwell, had vanished in the 1990s while researching an alleged pre-Columbian expedition. His last journal entries had been seized by the government, and the incident was labeled a mountaineering accident. Naomi never believed that. "Elias," she said quietly, "this mark, it's the same order of explorers my father wrote about." "What order?" She looked him dead in the eyes. "The Order of the First Light." Elias blinked. "I've never heard of them." "You weren't supposed to. According to my father, they were a secret group, a mixture of indigenous scholars, runaway European cartographers, and exiled mystics, people who traveled the continent centuries before Columbus, documenting things that shouldn't have been possible for their time." "What things?" Naomi rolled up the map. "Civilizations older than history books admit. Technology no one was meant to know existed. And predictions." She swallowed hard. "Predictions about America's future." Elias remembered the note in the chest. "America is running out of time." "Naomi," he whispered, "there's something else." He reached into his bag and pulled out the small oil-wrapped object. Naomi peeled back the layers. Inside was a stone disc, pitch black, smooth as glass, marked with concentric circles and a single line of etched script. Naomi recoiled. "No," she murmured, "this can't be real." "What is it?" Naomi stared at the disc as though it were radioactive. "It's a chronolith." "A what?" My father searched for it his entire life. According to the Order's legends, a chronolith is a recording device, a way ancient societies.
You mean suppressing early American history? She cocked an eyebrow. Oh, sweetheart, if you think that's all they've done, you're still innocent. Elias swallowed. Naomi placed the chronolith on the table. Lena stared at it for a full 5 seconds, then stepped back in shock. No, she whispered. It can't be. Naomi nodded. We found it. Lena's voice cracked. That's the same artifact your father died protecting. Naomi looked down, pain flickering across her face. Lena continued, voice trembling in a way Elias had never heard from a woman so controlled. That chronolith contains the message he spent his life trying to decode, and the custodians killed him because they knew if he succeeded. She stopped. Elias leaned forward. If he succeeded in what? Lena looked him dead in the eyes, then said the words that would change the course of Elias Mercer's life forever. He would have proven that America's first disappearance wasn't Roanoke. She paused. It was an entire civilization. Naomi froze. Elias felt the air leave his lungs. Lena continued. A nation older than the tribes, older than the pyramids. A nation that mastered navigation, astronomy, and predictive systems thousands of years before written history. Elias whispered, Then why isn't it in textbooks? Lena's voice hardened. Because the custodians erased them. Thunder rumbled in the distance. And now, she said, they're about to erase you, too. End of part 3. Say next for part 4, continuing the story with deeper secrets, danger, and revelations about the lost civilization